डियर स्टूडेंट्स, आज हम बिजनेस लॉ के सब्जेक्ट में इंडियन कॉन्ट्रैक्ट एक्ट 1872 के फ्री कंसेंट के बारे में पढ़ेंगे। फ्री कंसेंट क्या है? स्वतंत्र सहमति। फ्री कंसेंट को या हम कह सकते हैं कि कंसेंट, सहमति, सहमति को डिफाइन किया गया है सेक्शन 13 में। According to the section 13, when two persons are said to be consent when they are agreed upon the same thing in the same sense. That means two person, those who are making a contract between each other, they are agreed upon the same terms and conditions, same things, and in the same sense. That means they must understand the conditions which is given in the contract in the same way which the other person is also thinking of. It is also known as consens ad idem, that means to identifying of mind. Salmon describes it as an error in consent. So absence of consent means agreement is void. If there is no consent in the contract, then the contract or agreement is said to be void. So whenever the contract is made between two parties, that contract has to be with the free consent of the parties as per the section 13. If we talk about the consent, that means which is obtained in with the illegal way. So consent is said to be free when it is not obtained by number one, coercion, undue influence, fraud, misinterpretation, and mistake. So there are five things which says that if the contract is based on the if the contract is based uh, on the five factors, just because of the five factors, then it cannot be called as a consent, or we can say the free consent for making an contract. So if a contract is made by the coercion, which is given in this which is given in the section 15, so if the contract is made by the coercion, then it is not said to be a free consent of the parties. Second, if the contract is made by the undue influence as per the section 16, so if the contract is made with the undue influence, then again it is not called as a free consent for making an agreement. Third, if the contract is made based on the fraud, just because of the fraud two parties made a contract, then as per the section 13 it is not called as a free consent. Fourth point says if it is a misinterpretation, that means we will discuss it, all the points we will discuss in later. So as per the section 18, if the misinterpretation is being done, party has misinterpreted about the things which is given in the contract, then it is not called as a free consent. As per the section 20, 21, and 22, if there is a mistake of a party, if party has made a mistake, then it will be called it will be called as a um, disagreement of the contract. That means we can say that contract is not made with the free consent of the parties. So we have no highlighted 5 points: coercion, undue influence, fraud, misinterpretation, and mistake. If any contract is obtained based on these five things, five factors, then contract is then we can say that consent is not the free. Party has not made a free consent for the contract. Now let's discuss all the five factors one by one. First factor says coercion. As per the coercion, I mean the definition of coercion and the all aspects of coercion is given in the section 15 of Indian Contract Act 1872. So in the coercion means any act forbidden by the IPC. What is the IPC? Indian Penal Code. So, any act which has been prohibited by the Indian Penal Code, or threat to detain the property, or to detain the property of others, it may be called as a coercion. You should note that killing or beating another person and interfering in the personal freedom of another person are forbidden by the IPC. So, threat to commit suicide is also coercion, or mm, or we can say, if we for if any person is forced with physically or with the pressure of another person, and because of that pressure, if he enters into any contract, then called is also contract will be not called as a free consent of the party. So IPC need not to be forced in the place where coercion is done. So for example, if a threats be on the high seas, and where the IPC is not applicable, it is still regarded as a coercion. So the person of coercion is to compel a person to enter into a contract forcefully. For example, we want to say that it is not necessary that a threat is given by the party to the contract only. Any the coercion may be exercised by the party to contract or by any other third person. For example, A is a person who wants to enter into the contract with the B, but he engaged D to give threat to B. So it is called, although the D is not related with the B and A, so it is also case of coercion if D gives threat to B. So B has made a contract with the pressure of the D. Another example says, like, the coercion may be directed against the party to the contract or against the other person. So in I'm that we can say, threat of life or any other threat creating danger to life, if given to the family member or relative of a friend of the party, also amounts as the coercion. A gives threat to B that he will not enter into the contract with him. So he will kill B's wife. Although it is called as a coercion, because when the coercion is employed, a contract becomes voidable at the option of the aggrieved party, or any benefit received by the another party under the contract must be paid back. So if the aggrieved party has suffered from any loss, he can recover the loss from the defaulting party. Kuch, there are certain threats, which cannot be considered as the coercion. What are these? Like, if someone threat to sue in the court, like, because he wants to avail his fundamental right. Every person has a fundamental right, and every person has a right to go in a court for justice. So any person who is saying to another person that I will approach a court and I will sue you in the court. So that means he is not threatening, it is not the coercion. He is trying to use his fundamental right. So if a person refusing to renew a contract will not amount to the coercion. Or similarly, threat not to withdraw the pending criminal proceedings unless he bond is executed, so it can also be regarded as a coercion. Second thing, which also does not comes under the coercion, it is a statutory compulsion, where the law requires that the contract be made by the party. The consent in such a contract will not be deemed to be caused by coercion. That means we can say, if anything is done at the instance of the order of the court, it is not the coercion. Say for example, two parties have went to the court for their fundamental rights, and someone court has order something to the party. So party has to follow the court's order. So that will not considered as a coercion. Threat to strike: if any employer demands something and he threat to the to the employer that we will go for the strike. This going for a strike will not come under the uh, offense as per the IPC. So it will not considered as a coercion, because it is their industrial dispute. It is their right which comes under the Industrial Disputes Act. Another thing, last thing, is detaining property under mortgage. Any property which is detained by a mortgage until the payment of loan, so it will also not amount to the coercion. Second point is, like this was all about the coercion. If any person made enters into the contract just because of the coercion, it will not considered as a free consent of the party. So second point is undue influence. If any contract made with the undue influence as per the section 16, it will also not come under the free consent of the party. So any contract which is entered on undue influence, when relationship that exists between the party are such that one of them in a position to dominate the will of the other, and dominate party uses his position to obtain unfair advantage over the other. So it is necessary, in the undue influence it is necessary that there should be a relationship between two parties. And second point, and the one party has in one the one party is in the position to dominate the another party for using his position. So and also he has an intention to obtain the unfair advantages. So these are the three highlighted points in the undue influence. Number one, relationship between two parties. Second, um, the one party is dominating to the another party. And the third one is the one party is obtaining the unfair advantage over other. So party should have obtained the there is necessary that party in the undue influence party is obtaining unfair advantage by dominating, by dominate the position. So when a contract is made with the undue influence, the contract is voidable. The aggrieved party can recover the damages if he has suffered from any loss because of undue influence. But if one party con- when the party is challenged in the court of law on the ground of undue influence, the burden of proof lies to the weaker party. So weaker party has to justify in the court that I have been I have been making the contract just because of the undue influence. It was not my free consent. And the weaker party has to um, justify that the other party has used other party has used his position in a wrong way, and um, he has uh, he has obtained a unfair advantages from me. So when person can be deemed to be a position to dominate the will of other. Number one, when a person holds real or apparent authority over other. If any person who has in a position to hold the real or apparent authority over other, he will use his authority in an appropriate manner while entering into the contract with the other person. So he is said to be obtained unfair advantage. So few relationships are there where we can say that one party is enjoying the authority over the other. So what are these relationships? For example, master and servant. Master is using his authority over the servant. parent and child can also be comes under this category. Second is when person stands in fiduciary relationship over others. So fiduciary relationship towards the other party, if like he should be in the position of dominance of the will, as the other party keeps faith on him. So there should be the faith of both between two parties. The relationship should be in such a way that there should be a faith between the two parties. What can be these relationship which is called fiduciary relationships, like guardian and child, guru and disciples, doctor and patient, solicitor and client, trustee and beneficiary. So here we can see the second party, client, disciples, patient, client, or beneficiaries. These all are having the faith on the other parties like guardian, guru, doctor, solicitor, trustee, and etc. So they have a faith on him. Another thing, when contract is made with the mentally weak person, if any contract which is made with the person who is capacity is whose mental capacity is temporary or permanently affected by the reason of age, illness, or bodily distress, so their consent will not be considered as a free consent. So contract with the Pardarshin woman, any woman who is Pardarshin, who observes complete seclusion because of the customs of her community in which she belongs. So a contract with her is presumed to have been induced by undue influence. It is presumed that any contract which is done by the Pardarshin woman have been induced by undue influence. Next is no presumption of dominance of will. There are certain things that in the feud relationship there is no presumption of dominance of will by one party over the other party, such as landlord and tenant, creditor and debtor, husband and wife, principal and agent. So for example, A applies to a bank for a loan when the money market is very unpredictable. So banker says that the loan can be provided but only at the rate of 30% interest rate. So A accept his proposal, banker's proposal, with such a high interest rate. So A's consent is not obtained by the way of the undue influence. A could have obtained the loan from another person, another party, and the bank also. So moreover, banker has not obtained any other unfair advantages. So these are all were about the undue influence. We also must understand the difference between coercion and undue influence. Like coercion is used with the physical force, whereas undue influence is the moral, or we can say moral force or mental force. Coercion intention is to obtain consent for the contract in any way. Here in the undue influence, intention is to obtain unfair advantage from the weak party. Coercion is criminally liable and as per the IPC, and in the undue influences there is no criminal liability arises. Therefore, but coercion can be employed by party or by outsider. Any person who belongs or who does not belong with the contract can use the coercion to for making a contract. In the undue influences can be exercised in undue influences it can be exercised by the party to the contract, and there must be relationship between the two parties. Relationship in the coercion relationship between parties are immaterial, whereas the undue influence the relationship between the parties are material. So there it is compulsory in the undue influence that there should be a relationship between the two parties. Coercion is voidable. Coercion is voidable at the option of aggrieved party. Whenever the aggrieved party wants to demolish the contract, he or she can do. But in the contract, in the undue influence, contract is voidable, or court may set it aside. Contract is voidable, or if a court may set it aside on the application of the parties. So we must understand the difference between two, coercion and undue influence. Now, there are other three remaining part which is called fraud, in misinterpretation and mistakes, that will be discussed in my next lecture. Thank you.